It brings up another thing I want to mention too. Just kind of all of us here, we've kind of worked together in the past. We actually have things together. So DataPipe's a customer of ours. We resell their services. RightScale is a partner of ours. We work together on many engagements. Mark came from a customer, Zynga, who was a customer of all the folks here, and Equinix is a great partner of ours, where we actually host our cloud racks there. And it's just kind of I just want to bring that up. Like, it's kind of a great group. We've been working together in the past for quite a while, and just kind of it just resonated that everyone here has kind of a common thread that we've been working together in the past.
Hey, just one point on that. I mean, I think that's one of the key issues or challenges or opportunities in multi-cloud. It's an ecosystem. I mean, you're buying into a diverse ecosystem of providers, and it's no longer I'm going to go to IBM and buy everything from IBM. I mean, there are still companies that will do that, but I think they're not necessarily seeing the future and taking advantage of all the innovation that exists. So the other question to think about is, how do I, as an enterprise or as an individual trying to sell to these companies, help people tap into this massive innovation ecosystem? Because if you don't have a model to do it, you're gonna fall behind in ways that, I mean, it's probably going to be startling how fast it happens, to be honest with you. I mean, look at the price drops. You know, it's okay, we did 30 in 3 years, and then it goes 30% down. I don't think that stops anytime soon. So.
Yeah, that actually, the ecosystem comment is really good, and the one self-serving thing I'll throw out there is that, you know, one of the and I, you know, in some ways it just kind of happened organically, but you know, ecosystems have grown up inside Equinix over time, primarily because of the depth of our peering infrastructure. And you know, what you highlighted this about data gravity, right? So a lot of the trend of multi-cloud and where this is going, and kind of the considerations about, you know, how we're going to take advantage of it, is really about how do you optimize getting the right set of apps close to the right set of data for the right set of users, right? And frankly, I think what we're seeing happening inside Equinix is, you know, first of all, the first ecosystem was peering, then the next ecosystems were, you know, financial and advertising, et cetera. And as the cloud ecosystem has grown, now it's actually a data ecosystem that's forming, right? More companies are bringing their data closer to the apps inside Equinix. Whether those apps are coming from something that sits in AWS and gets tethered into Equinix, or like Salesforce.com or somebody else where it's actually inside the facility itself. And I think more and more, again, if you're a seller or actually if you're a buyer, right? Whether you're an enterprise buyer or some cloud service provider that is trying to deliver a new set of apps, you know, a lot of the considerations about how you take advantage of this and how you're going to deploy and sell more, frankly, or solve some of these security concerns is really about how you optimize the relationship between the apps and the data and the users and the network. And frankly, that's, again, the self-serving part of the statement is we're watching this happen inside Equinix right now. So I think that's, you know, going back to your point about, you know, we're all in the same ecosystem, and frankly, I think it's kind of all coming together inside our facilities.
That's great. Well, it's kind of speaking of that and the network piece. What about performance? There's obviously performance concerns for every application. How does multi-cloud help that?
One of the biggest things it does is it kind of frees you from being tied to either your own infrastructure that might not be able to perform on an elasticity or scale dimension. You might have legacy components of your application that are monolithic. You might have to solve that with something that a public cloud provider simply cannot build you a big enough box to do. So multi-cloud opens up a way to still preserve and or start investing in those commitments to automation so that you make everything that you're doing repeatable, but still identify or invest in the exact performance infrastructure or performant infrastructure that really solves your critical pain point. And then ideally it gives you the flexibility to then evolve beyond that monolithic dependency and make it more broadly, you know, a more cloud-native application so that you're not so constrained. So it really gets you out of the corner.
So one comment I'd make there, and again, cloud is not about the technology, it's about the agility model. So a pretty common use case we see is having a cloud layer or, you know, scalable app tier in front of a dedicated set of hardware on the back. which is a great thing you can do with Direct Connect out of Amazon. You can do it with all kinds of network architectures. What that provides you is putting your massive bare metal for data I/O requirements or massive storage needs that just can't be met yet on public cloud into the same application architecture, and put the cloud benefit in the right place, backed by good old iron, is something we see a lot of.
I mean, that's to add to what you said. I mean, I've been doing this. I've been helping clients to kind of hybrid models where we're doing Direct Connect, or from the application performance perspective, they have these very high transactional databases that just can't run. I mean, one of the things you can't do in the cloud, on a lot of clouds right now, just from a licensing perspective, is run Oracle racks, right? So there you have to. There's no way I can put my Oracle. I can't just have a single Oracle server sitting somewhere in the cloud. I need to actually have dedicated physical hardware, with enterprise SAN behind it, battery back cache and things like that. So by having that hybrid model, and with Equinix, they have a great presence all over the world. So wherever our clients need to be, we can put them there, and then we can interconnect them with their on-premise cloud stuff backed by their physical hardware.
Yeah, when I hear about performance, so thanks for the plug, by the way. All of you, actually. Thanks for the plugs. When you talk about performance, my current lens, and you've heard me talk about this over the course of the last, 30 minutes or so, has been very sort of end-user oriented. And so this comes down to, what's the end-user experience like, or the user experience? And a lot of the scalable, elastic, flexible infrastructure that's on the back end ultimately is delivering some sort of result or piece of data or intelligence or some sort of something, an output, to a user somewhere. Right? Sometimes it's to another machine, and that's happening more and more. But somewhere along the line, there's a human being consuming some bit of data, or trying to create some sort of intelligence out of it. And when you think about the end user as a common denominator there, I come back to something I said earlier, which is, and again, this is my lens du jour, which is network, right? And all the cloud apps that we have on our mobile devices are fabulous, but if I don't have a good network connection, I can't get to my data or my music or whatever it is, right? No matter how scalable Apple's infrastructure is for iTunes, it doesn't matter if I don't have a network connection, right? So I think it's a consideration that's often overlooked, right? Particularly as the generation of business people and coders and developers are focused on apps and mobility and social, and it's great. There's an incredible amount of innovation. Network engineering just isn't sexy, right? But it's extremely important, and I heard the magic word here earlier, which is interconnect, right? That's part of our business problem. I mean, it's part of our business model, is actually interconnecting all these different parties. And so when we're talking about the ecosystems, right, it's one thing to have these ecosystems connected over plain old internet. It's another thing to have them actually connected over a, call it an abstraction network, or a private network that bypasses the internet, which completely changes what the network performance is like, and thereby has a massive impact on the end user experience.
Yeah, there's some really unsolvable problems here as well. So, for example, China. We have a client, Coty Pharmaceuticals, who has brand sites all over the world, and the regulatory requirements are forcing them to launch e-commerce in each geography in every country they operate in. China is a huge market for them, and the great firewall and all this stuff. I mean, it's just set up in a way where performance, no matter how fast your pipes are, is not going to be really good. So then you have to get into things like, okay, I need a license to operate a website in China. Then I need a data pipe data center in I think it's in Shanghai. I forget where it is. And then I need CDN local to the country. So I mean, these issues are not solved, and I think they're unique to your point of every application and the user experience you're trying to really facilitate. But now it's also a demographic issue as well as a geographic one. So
Speed of light and geographic and geopolitical constraints will always be there. And there's a lot of companies that make a lot of money off of trying to solve those issues.